in our lives. Charles Darnell is here to share his work and see if we'll join him down a very unusual path. Charles?
Hi, everybody. Before I begin, I just wanted to point something out to you. In the little pamphlet there on the back is a picture of me, and that's what I usually look like. I have a UT hat on my head, and I didn't think it'd be appropriate here, so I didn't bring it. But also, if you notice, there's a stained glass window in the back. It's not a church. That is the Robert Browning building at Baylor University in Waco. And it was during a poetry festival there. It's my pleasure and honor to be here with you again. I recognize some of your faces from the last time I was here a year ago. And unfortunately, I don't remember your names. Barely remember mine half the time. At that time, Jose invited me to read from my book, Toward Human, and I was a little bit nervous and anxious about being here, not knowing what to expect, but y'all were so warm and inviting. You immediately made me feel relaxed, and I was able to get through the presentation without sweating too much. Jose asked me to read a series of poems that I wrote. It was not intended to be a series. I wrote one poem and one thing led to another. The first poem was Jogging with Jesus. And it's not Jogging with Jesus 1 because I thought it would be the only poem. Anyway, these poems were written during the time I was writing the manuscript for Toward Human, the book that I read from last time. And just the process of working on that manuscript had me think about modern Christianity and maybe how Jesus might look at it now. And so that's how these poems were born. I'm somewhat of a critic of today's Christianity, but I hope to present that criticism with a little bit of humor in these poems. And you might ask, why jogging? Well, seem more realistic than maybe swimming with Jesus or flying with Jesus or something. So, and jogging was kind of what I did for exercise at that time. And I never really jogged fast enough to lose my breath. So when I had an occasional friend run with me, we were able to carry on conversations. So that's kind of where that came from. Will there be more in the series? I hope so. They're fun to write, and there's still plenty of subject matter that's there to write about. Finally, in addition to these poems, Jose asked me to read some poems that have won awards in the past, and I'll read those. Okay. Jogging with Jesus. We puff along the paved path, follow the creek, winding our way on the right side to make room for bikers and faster runners. His long hair jumps with each short stride, almost 2 for my 1. I say, hike up your robe, you can stretch out more. He just looks at me. We reach a small hill, and he grabs the cloth below his knees, sprints the incline as I rumble on behind. He runs in place with a grin waiting. We jostle down the back slope, giving appreciative looks to the girls bouncing by, and bump slightly with a knowing smile. One of my better creations, he laughs. We slow a little, and I ask him, you speak so plainly here. Why do you speak so obliquely in the Gospels? He gives me an irritated smirk and says, I don't really talk like that. I want you to get it clear. Those guys write to make me seem mysterious so they can interpret what I say to look important. He gives a big sigh. We pick up the pace, jogging the flat places with little words. I glance at his face, see a troubled frown. He turns and says, it seems I can't win for dying. Mankind has a way of twisting things as he pleases. Maybe I should make a return appearance. That would shake things up. He gives a short breath laugh. We jog on. These are all original titles, by the way. Jogging with Jesus 2. Jesus has the outside lane as we shuffle up the next hill. He has shorts and a tee this time, the better to stretch his skinny legs. Suddenly he says, peace is more than just serenity, although that's nice too. I say, what brought that up? He runs a few paces before answering. A poet was asking about it. She was mulling it over, maybe looking for inspiration. Got me to thinking about it. We go single file while a group of bikes move past. Their hands wave in acknowledgement. I catch up, and he goes on. It's more than the absence of war, too. I can see he's thinking this through, so we jog a long ways without talking, our breath moving through our open mouths. He turns his head to look at me. We almost stop, but run for shorter steps. Peace is a warm bath feeling, like a big cozy blanket that spreads from person to person. It stretches until it covers everyone, and they all feel safe enough to love. Now come on, I'm hardly sweating. Jogging with Jesus 3. Waited 10 minutes at the trailhead before he drove up. He got out with an angry door slam, gesticulating behind him. Sorry, got caught up at the church let out. Cop held the traffic for the church folks. We stretch out for a warm-up, and he said, I watched those folks zoom out of the parking lot like it was their right to hold up the rest of us. Every one of them holding up their noses like they were better. Kind of hacked me off. They left behind a towering cathedral, all glass and marble, even a big digital sign right by the road. He shook his head, gave a sad look. I was thinking how much food, school supplies, clothes could have been bought with all that cost. I know they chalk it up to for the glory of God, but I don't need all that. I'm God, for God's sake. There's a lot of poor folks who need help. Makes me want to do some smiting, like my old man. In all seriousness, I said, remind me not to get on your bad side. He gave me a quick stare, started to laugh, heading down the trail, waving me to catch up. Jogging with Jesus 4. We finished our run, sweat dripping from his face. his hair stringy and plastered to his temples. "Let's walk a little to cool down," he said. "I've got plenty of time. Heck, I've got eternity." We kept to the right to let the runners and bikes go by, and he was quiet for a few strides. Then he said, "I can talk to you, right? You'll pay attention?" I said, "Sure. What are friends for if you can't use them?" He gave me a wry smile, but I could see something was troubling and just listened. He said, "The world's a real mess now, isn't it?" I nodded. "I mean, food stamps cut off in the richest country in the world, and even heads in my old stomping grounds. You remember that do unto others thing?" I really meant it. "Oh, I could have made you always do right, but you'd be just like the angels and God. I mean, I know there's enough of them flying around with their hosannas and hallelujahs. Gets a little tedious. I wanted beings nobler, ones who could do wrong, but choose to do right. I know it's not always easy, but I gave some guidance, didn't I? I just don't know. Could I have been wrong?" I could see his dark eyes brim with tears. He gave a sniff to hold them in. He shook his head. I put a hand on his slumped shoulder. Jogging with Jesus 5. I puff along, tired and out of sorts. He isn't talking, and I figure he must be laboring too. I look down at his stride, and he's off the ground by a few inches, floating, not even breathing heavy. I say, "What the?" And he speeds up, floating higher, and turns to face me, holds out his arms in that classic pose. I muster enough indignity to yell, "No fair!" And he nearly tumbles with laughter. We stop, him still giggling like a third grader. He waits while I catch my breath, and I ask, "You don't act much like a god. What's with the teasing? I thought you were all deep and serious. Are you disappointed? Do you want all that fire and brimstone?" "No," I said, "but isn't that what people expect?" "I suppose it is, but I don't know why. What's wrong with a little fun?" "Nothing. Just not used to you being a kidder. You remember that saying, laughter is good for the soul? Well, I invented that line, but someone stole it from me. He's anonymous for a reason." He grins a smile out of me. We turn for the jog back. Jogging with Jesus 6. We get to the trailhead at the same time. He sits in the driver's seat with the driver's door open, slipping on his runners. It's late October, so he has a sweat top over his tee and gray sweatpants over his skinny legs. "Makes me look like a real athlete," he grins. I give a smirk, shake my head. We do a little stretching and start off slow down the trail. Not many folks out this early, and besides, it's cold. He turns his head my way and asks, "Say, have you seen all the political signs along the streets?" I nod. "So? It's election season, no surprise." "I guess not, but I wonder how many folks bother. Do you?" "What, bother? Yeah, I vote." We stop talking as we approach the first hill challenge, make small choppy steps going down the other side. He picks up where he left off. "You know, it took you guys long enough to pick up on democracy. It was there for mankind to grab, but it was thousands of years. I don't think it's appreciated. a real opportunity to put values into action, and most people don't. I'm not talking about this so-called Christian nationalism either. I'm not a bullet to be shot into the hearts of people or cudgel to be swung in righteousness. His eyes blaze. I move away a little to avoid any potential smiting. He sees my concern and laughs a little. I'm not telling you or anyone who to vote for. Free will, remember? I just think you guys should use the gifts you have been given. We make the turn to head to our cars. On the way home, I notice the signs along the road in people's yards. Make a mental note to vote early. I used to enter poetry contests and won a few awards. I don't do that much anymore. I'm busy doing other things. I've got a manuscript that I'm working on now, and that seems to be all I can do with poetry. So, but Jose was kind enough to ask me to bring some to read to you. This first one, on a lark, I sent a poem into a contest in Bangalore, India, and was very surprised to have it come back a winner. It's called Waiting for Joy. We tell ourselves it will come. It will descend upon us while we are busy or simply lying about, bestowed like a crown, a reward for patience. Or we seek it in others to suck out like juice from a peach, dependent on the energy or whim of the loved. In truth, we make our own. We find it in ourselves, our nature, and in our actions. Focus on where you find happiness, for joy lies nearby. This next poem is based on my childhood and is part of a chapbook that I wrote about the people and places of South Louisiana, which is where I was born and still have relatives and go back on occasion. My mother did not read to me. When I was a child, bedtime came without preamble. We were whisked into our covers, pecked hurriedly on the cheeks after hurried prayers, and the light went out. Snap. We'd lie in bed, whispering across the room, listening to footfalls in the hall or the clatter of late-night dishwashing. No, my mother did not read to me. I would often think of how it may have looked, my head propped on plump pillows, covers up to my chin on cold winter nights, or perhaps on my side with my head held by hand and crooked elbow on a warm summer evening, listening to the sweet drama of my animated mother, her figure backlit by the lamp, like a Norman Rockwell painting. No, my mother did not read to me, nor my brothers, nor my sisters. She told us the stories we needed, with the washing of the clothes, the cooking of the meals, the dressing up for school, the smiles and kisses as we rushed out into the world. And this last poem is titled Missing You, and I wrote it not because this happened, but because I imagined it happened, that my wife was missing or gone or something. Missing you. In some far-off land, The days are hot with burning sun. Wet drops are jewels hoarded, poured into ready casks for future parceling. Parched lips love each precious bead, savor the moment in the mouth, swallowing gratefully, sustaining still another day. I, in this empty, arid land, will lean and quench my thirst with the ladle of your image until you bless me like returning rain. Thank you very much for your attention. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.